All right, Marion, that was a really insightful first question. And the second question, we like to go about this whole, sometimes people call it as, you either get it or you don't. It's a bit very esoteric, and it's all about the topic of passion. And I don't know, some people can be passionate as accountants, and my head's off to them because I was an accountant in my previous life. Some people are really passionate about numbers, engineering, making new technology. But what about this select group of Generation Y, the young millennials, whom seems very disillusioned? We seem very lost. How can we go about finding work that we are truly passionate about? And I'm for the belief that once we find the work that we really love and we're really passionate about, there's no qualms about whether there's work-life balance. In fact, if you ask us to do work when we're at home, because we are so passionate about it, we are willingly able to put in hours after work so that we just want to make our projects happen. Then the question is, how do we even get there? How do we find work that we are passionate about?
So I really love this topic. That's why I called the book Turning Gen Y On. Because I believe totally that not just Gen Y again, any person who's turned on, it's not work. It's just the meaning of your life. Everyone wants to give back to society in the best way they can. And like you said, you could be an accountant, you could learn the skill sets, but it may not bring you the joy. No, I can drive a car, but I don't want to be a cab driver the rest of my life. Right? However, it's not a Gen Y issue. Everyone wants to find meaning and passion at work. Challenge again is economy doesn't match what we want. Right? So many people I know, my friends who were doctors when I was in Ministry of Health, wanted to be artists, right? And they're not going to do that because obviously their doctoring skills are more meaningful, right? And more monetarily beneficial. So firstly, do you need to be passionate, or can you just find somewhere that's meaningful? Meaningful is easier to find. I will always promote healthcare, civil service. I promote civil service a lot. Even though to many Gen Ys it seems very boring and not sexy, a lot of admin work. But there is a huge meaning behind the work.
A sense of contribution, is it?
Can see people benefit.
Right.
And then since you said in your previous life, you are 28. No, you're all under 30. You're under 35. Explore more.
Right.
You cannot find passion until you really try the job out. From outside, it looks nice. When you're in it, it may not. And let me assure you, as a person who has now, thankfully, more passion in the work, but multiple jobs more than you, I had to fine-tune with each one what makes it turn me on more. Right? I love teaching. I'm not a teacher in MOE anymore or the Ministry of Education. I'm now teaching in a different way. But even here, I'm learning a new skill set, like this media thing and all that. All new. Am I comfortable with it? Am I not? If you ask me when I was like 20-something, would I do this? Never. Right? So you and anybody who's searching for passion, exploration is key.
Right.
2, meaningful first. If you find it meaningful, at least you'll stay longer. And meaningful can mean suffering sometimes. So a lot of people think passion is enjoyable. No, passion can be meaningful and painful.
Right.
One of the things I would warn though against is that if you can see a lot of Generation Y in affluent countries or countries where they have opportunity are trying to be entrepreneurs. Now, I have nothing against being an entrepreneur. I think it's a very, very good idea. However, an entrepreneur still has to make money and it has to be a business model that's sustainable.
Right.
And many of the ones that I know start cafes or start a fashion line, and it's not really making that much money. So I call them their passion-filled jobs. They're not entrepreneurs. They're making enough to pay only enough for themselves. They may not be hiring enough people or not sustainable. So this entrepreneur thing, unless you're very sure, unless it's sustainable, don't start a coffee place and then close it down.
So what would be a better way for these groups of people who seem to have I have inkling, a passion for maybe brewing coffee, getting people places together in a nice place, but yet I don't want to overcommit. What would be a good way, like a middle ground for this kind of situations?
So this is that's why I get so many interns and associates come and work with someone who is a bit along the journey than you.
Okay.
So you really see the coffee industry. So you still have a full-time job. You can do it on the weekends.
Right.
You can start with marketing for them. I promise you, everybody, marketing is really the key. That's why we're here on this video. Right? If you don't do the marketing, no one comes, there's no business. So many people start the coffee place and there's nobody coming in through the doors. And the marketing will teach you that is your coffee or is your place somewhere, is there a need being met in the industry? If there's no need being met, is there no demand, then it's an illusion in your head. So I'm not against working hard for your passion, but I'm also very much entrepreneurial and business minded and money making. So Gen Ys, sometimes when you take on this stuff, entrepreneurial things, a lot of the older people are saying, why do you waste your money to find it out this way?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hedge it a bit, go and work with someone first, find a way to help them grow their business, and then understand. So you get less of the responsibility, but all of the experience at the same time.
So if I could really bring forth all the insights together, you're saying that you can't just wait for passion to land on your head. It doesn't fall like Newton's apple. So definitely there's a process of exploration, and really brings to mind one of these books that I read by Reid Hoffman. Is the co-founder of LinkedIn. He mentioned that life is live your life like a startup. And what's really a key characteristic of a startup is constant iterations. Iterations meaning you start a project A, doesn't really work, more of it to project B. Part of it doesn't work, move it to project C, and it's constant evolution, evolvement. So you can only find it till you constantly work it. And then the second thing is how can we balance between the risks and the downsides versus finding as much about this job, this vocation, this profession as we can. And a really good way is to find someone like Marion who has done it, so that our risk is so much lesser, but yet we can see it from a third person's point of view to live it a bit more vicariously.
So I'm going to add 2 points to that for leaders again, because I want the leaders to understand every Gen Y, every person who's in your company for the first time wants a mentor. And companies that do not clearly define your mentoring program and give that input to the young person or the new employee, you're going to lose them. If your high performer wants to learn from you and you don't spend time debriefing, you give them work, doesn't mean they're learning. They don't understand the whole big picture.
Exactly.
Right? So a mentor, I tell you, you don't need money. Get mentoring program in your company, you'll be sexy to the Gen Ys. Right? See? He's saying it, yes. The other thing, Gen Ys, everybody passionate. I have so many 40-somethings coming to me, midlife crisis type of thing. All very high performers. All asking me, how do I become an entrepreneur? How do I start my own thing? So it's not just you, it's just who can afford the time to take that risk. Because many people in their 30s and early 40s are still growing a family. So they do not want to be unfair to that commitment.
Which really brings to mind when I was learning from one of my mentors, watching him train. Always after every training, he'll sit me down. It's like a mandatory thing, over coffee, and say, Ben, what did I do right and what did I not do right from your eyes? So it was really, forcing me to be present. And then if of course I cannot give any good answers, he'll say, you make sure for the next training that you sit in, you are able to pinpoint to me, write it down in specific order and points, at what juncture, what time of the training, what did I do right, And this really forced me to think in his perspective and his role. And I thought, instead of being a very passive observer behind the role, behind the entire classroom, I really put myself in his role and see, from his point of view, how he could better engage the learners. So I think the feedback is really very important.
Very, very important. And again, you don't have to make them, all you give the Gen Y questions. And for me, most important for big companies, profits, understand the P&L. The Gen Y doesn't get it. So when they ask you for something that they think is good for their project, they don't understand that something else has been given up to give you that. So then they get upset. But if you look at the P&L picture, you look at a political agenda, which they don't get. So a lot of leaders say, I have no time to explain this to them. Well, make time. I even suggest to entrepreneurs or startup leaders, audio tape your process of thinking at each project level so they can see, at least hear from you, and then they are seeing with new eyes. You want them to be aligned with your vision, you have to share your vision, so much so that they see it for themselves. Not share your vision and they don't see it.
So I really see this as a metaphor of creating bridges. So I think it takes two hands to clap, and of course, for a bridge to be constructed, both parties need to walk to the middle ground. So I really appreciate, the value of audio tapes, because we can read it from books, we can speak to mentors, but until you can distill it into a product or a process that we can easily absorb, I think there's no way that we can ever progress or grow.
Okay. Thank you.